did I just watch? Seriously, what was that? Tim Robinson's comedic stylings have always been pretty out there, but this is by far his strangest project yet. The Chair Company is a mystery thriller comedy series about a paranoid man that becomes obsessed with a chair company, Tekka, after suffering an accident in one of their chairs. Or was it an accident after all? That's just one of the many questions raised as Robinson's Ron Trosper falls further and further down the rabbit hole. He becomes a full on amateur detective, shirking all of his responsibilities in favor of pursuing the truth after discovering that Tekka may in fact be just one small piece of a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top. The series was co created by Robinson and his frequent collaborator, Zach Kanan. The two most recently worked together on the Netflix sketch comedy series, I Think You Should Leave, a show that I consider to be the funniest sketch show I've ever seen. It's packed to the brim with lots of loud and obnoxious characters that are equal parts hilarious and horrifying. You see, Tim is a master of what I would describe as cringe comedy. He's the kind of performer that is unafraid to take big swings, embarrass himself, or act like a completely unhinged lunatic for the sake of a joke. And that's what makes him so entertaining. It really works in short bursts, but this year the longevity of his shtick was put to the test with both the film Friendship and now this series, taking his usual style of comedy to other longer form mediums. The two share a lot of the same DNA, with the director of Friendship, Andrew DeYoung, also directing several episodes of the series. In both that film and this show, Tim essentially plays the same character as usual, a socially awkward and overly aggressive man plagued with insecurities and dying to be loved. What makes the Chair Company unique is taking that kind of character and placing him in the middle of a paranoia-fueled nightmare, where every answer comes with a handful of new questions. It's still got the charm, if you can call it that, of a typical Robinson show. We're always waiting to see what kind of outrageous, over-the-top reaction he's going to have, or what strange side character he's going to run into. But this one has a more sinister overtone. Robinson's characters have always been intense and somewhat disturbing, but this time around, more so than ever, he seems like a man that is legitimately unwell. As the investigation gets deeper and deeper, you can't help but wonder if there actually is anything to this supposed conspiracy, or if these are all just the delusions of a paranoid and possibly even schizophrenic man. Even in interactions with his own family, he comes across as disconnected, neurotic, and possibly even dangerous. In this way, the more horrific elements of the series come in equal parts from the mystery Ron is pursuing and Ron himself. That's not to say the show isn't also funny, because it is. Actually, I would argue that the disturbing and scarier moments add to the comedy, creating a new kind of cringe comedy, or at least one I haven't experienced before. As we all know, the greatest television show of all time is The Office, an absolute masterpiece of comedic cringe. Oftentimes in that show, the laughter it induces can be described as almost nervous, as if we're laughing just to break the tension present in a scene where a man is telling an entire class of high school students they will not be receiving the college tuition he once promised them. Likewise, the Chair Company features many scenes that induce that same feeling, but with a slightly different tone, as if it were possible that Michael Scott's insecurities and public embarrassment might lead him to shoot up the place. But until that rage boils over, we're right alongside Ron for the ride, and it seems clear that there is something going on behind the scenes involving Tekka, the local government, and possibly even his own job and wife. What that something is, though, always remains vague, each lead only adding to the convoluted web of the Chair Company conspiracy. I should say that this is not the kind of show you should be watching if you're looking for a satisfying mystery. Yes, what's going on becomes slightly clearer as Ron gathers clues, but you never get a full picture, not in this season anyway. I'd go so far as to say the final scene of the season is a straight up troll, introducing a new thread and enemy in the last few minutes that is so out of left field and ridiculous, it's impossible to take seriously. But I laughed hard. At the end of the day, that's what this show is, gonzo comedy wearing a mystery thriller mask, and the jokes are more important than the conspiracy. Unless you're a heartless husk, some kind of zombie person, I would say the chuckles are pretty much guaranteed. It's a lot of awkward and quirky interactions with a rotation of weirdos, such as a handyman who insists his wheelbarrow is for inside purposes only, or an adult video connoisseur with a passion for extravagant water features. As strange as everyone is, the dialogue always has a naturalistic feel, as if the actors were encouraged to improvise whatever non sequitur came to mind, resulting in a back and forth that feels genuine. This is most evident with the supporting character Mike, a shady security guy that teams up with Ron as his investigative partner after Tekka causes the two to cross paths. As played by Joseph Tedesco, this is what people mean when they say, "Oh boy, that guy is a real character." From his love of obscene comedy tapes and adult parodies of Christmas classics, to his desperate desire to attend a teenager's birthday party, this guy is something else. He's like an aging Italian gangster version of Walter from The Big Lebowski. As unhinged as he is hilarious, and his character ends up having the most significant reveals of anyone in the entire season. The only normal people in the show are Ron's family, which unfortunately makes them the most boring. It does serve the show to have a few straight men in the comedy routine. It just means their behavior and storylines are going to be less interesting by comparison. Out of his wife, son, and daughter, the only one that really stands out to me is said daughter, as played by Sophia Lillis. She's essentially the audience surrogate character, both intrigued by the mystery her father has stumbled onto, while also being concerned for his mental state. Eventually, she gets involved in the investigation as well, and the relationship between the two becomes an emotional core for a show that has little to no interest in sentimentality. A quick shout out to Lou Diamond Phillips as well, who plays the main antagonist of the series in the form of Ron's boss. His overbearing and dominating nature leads him to take creative control over the mall development project Ron is supposed to be in charge of, making his life even more difficult than it needs to be. Phillips does a great job of being the kind of douchebag we're all familiar with, a man that almost certainly slicks back his hair before going out for sloppy steaks with the boys. He adds a layer of instability to his performance as well, serving as a nice parallel to Ron when we realize he's just as insecure. He's just higher up the food chain. This show is without a doubt the weirdest thing I've watched this year, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said before, the mystery itself isn't the driving force, so much as it is the series of strange and mundane interactions Ron has with the world around him. You're never quite sure what is a clue, a red herring, or just absolute and utter nonsense, but that's the fun of whatever this is. If you can't tell, the tone and overall storytelling of this show is pretty difficult to describe because it truly is unlike anything else I've ever seen on television. If you're a fan of Tim Robinson's previous projects, movies like these, or watching Adult Swim at 4 a.m., then you'll probably enjoy this fever dream on screen. The chair company gets a baby the dog. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, throw down a comment below, or subscribe to see more.